Hello, good morning again, students.
Good morning, sir.
What's happening today? How are you feeling? Good, great. And I am feeling okay too. Are you happy to be at school today?
Yes.
Oh, great. To learn new things and to play with friends and to be edified. Yes. Well, today's Read Across Jamaica Day, right? And I have come to do just that with you. I have a little story that I learned a number of years ago when my mom sent some books for her grandson. And this story has remained with me because it's such a wonderfully creative, and thoughtful piece that teaches you lessons of kindness and, sharing and caring as you know you should be doing, right?
Yes.
Yes, so you're going to listen attentively today as I read The Fool of the World and the Flying Ship by Mr. Arthur Rannsome. Can you repeat that name for me? Mr. Arthur Rannsome, right. And I believe he is either a German writer or a Russian writer way there in Europe. And he has written this wonderful poem, this wonderful story for children. And I pray you will listen, you will stay still, and you will listen attentively so that you will hear and learn what this little story has to teach you, right? Are you ready to be read to? Are you ready? All right. Now there were once upon a time an old peasant and his wife, and they had 3 sons. 2 of them were clever young men who could borrow money without being cheated, but the third was the fool of the world. He was as simple as a child, simpler than some children, and he never did anyone a harm in his life, so he was a good boy. Well, it always happens like that. The father and mother thought a lot of the 2 smart young men, but the fool of the world was lucky if he got enough, to eat, because they always forgot him unless they happened to be looking at him. And sometimes even then, can you imagine being in a home where you don't get anything to eat much and nobody pays you much mind? But however, it was his father and mother. However, it was with his father and mother. This is a story that shows that God loves simple folk and turns things to their advantage in the end. For it happened that the Tsar of that country, anybody knows what the word Tsar means? Anybody know? Well, it's like the same thing as the king. You know what the word king means? Emperor, right? Or ruler, yes. For it happened that the Tsar of that country sent out messengers along the high roads and the rivers, even to huts in the forest like ours, to say that he would give his daughter, the princess, in marriage to anyone who could bring him a flying ship. Eh? A ship with wings that should sail this way and that through the blue sky like a ship sailing on the sea. This is a chance for us, said the 2 clever brothers. And that same day they set off together to see if one of them could not build the flying ship and marry the Tsar's daughter, and so be a great man indeed. And their father blessed them and gave them finer clothes than ever he wore himself. And their mother made them up hampers of food for the road, soft white rolls, and several kinds of cooked meats, and bottles of corn brandy. Brandy is a liquor, right? Like rum and, like that. And wine, red label wine, right? So it's a liquor. She went with them as far as the high road and waved her hand to them till they were out of sight. And so the 2 clever brothers set merrily off on their adventure to see what could be done with their cleverness. And what happened to them I do not know, but they were never heard of again. The fool of the world saw them set off with their fine parcels of food and their fine clothes and their bottles of corn brandy. Then guess what he said? I'd like to go too, says he, and eat good meat with soft white rolls and drink corn brandy and marry the Tsar's daughter. Stupid fellow, says his mother. What's the good of your going? Why, if you were to stir from the house, you would walk into the arms of a bear, and if not that, then the wolves would eat you before you had finished staring at them. But the fool of the world would not be held back by words. I am going, says he. I am going. I am going. 4 times. He went on saying this over and over again, till the old woman, his mother, saw there was nothing to be done and was glad to get him out of the house so as to be quit of the sound of his voice. You can imagine over and over, I am going, I am going. So she put some food in a bag for him to eat by the way. She put in the bag some crusts of dry black bread and a flask of water. That's all he got. She did not even bother to go as far as the footpath to see him on his way. She saw the last of him at the door of the hut, and he had not taken 2 steps before she had gone back into the hut to see to more important business. So you can imagine how much they despised and neglected this poor little wise boy who we are going to see why he was wise. So she went into her hut to see to more important business. No matter. The fool of the world set off with his bag over his shoulder, singing as he went, for he was off to seek his fortune and marry the Tsar's daughter. He was sorry his mother had not given him any corn brandy. He would have wanted some, wouldn't he have? But he sang merrily for all that. He would have liked white rolls. It's like bread, you know. The white rolls are like bread instead of the dry black crusts. But after all, the main thing on a journey is to have something to eat. So he trudged merrily along the road and sang because the trees were green and there was a blue sky overhead. He had not gone very far when he met an ancient old man, and this boy was going to meet a number of persons on the way. And the first was this ancient old man with a bent back and a long beard and eyes hidden under his bushy eyebrows. Good day, young fellow, says the ancient old man. Good day, grandfather, says the fool of the world. And where are you off to? Says the ancient old man. What? Says the fool. Haven't you heard? The Tsar is going to give his daughter to anyone who can bring him a flying ship. And you can really make a flying ship? Says the ancient old man. No, I do not know how. Then what are you going to do? God knows, says the fool of the world. Well, says the ancient, if things are like that, sit you down here. We will rest together and have a bite of food. Bring out what you have in your bag. You can imagine that? I am ashamed to offer you what I have here. It is good enough for me, but it is not the sort of meal to which one can ask guests. Why you think so? Because it was only black crust of bread and water. Never mind that. Out with it. Let us eat what God has given. The fool of the world opened his bag and could hardly believe his eyes. Instead of black crust, he saw fresh white rolls and cooked meats. Can you imagine that? He handed them out to the ancient who said, you see how God loves simple folk? Although your own mother does not love you, you have not been done out of your share of the good things. Let's have a sip at the corn brandy. So imagine when he looked in his bag, everything had transformed and he had wonderful things to eat. Now the fool of the world opened his flask and instead of water, there came out what? What do you think? Corn brandy. Yes, you are right, my child. And that of the best tasting corn brandy. So the fool and the ancient made merry, eating and drinking, and when they had done and sung a song or two together, the ancient says to the fool, listen to me. Off with you into the forest. Go up to the first big tree you see. Make the sacred sign of the cross 3 times. before it. Strike it a blow with your little hatchet. Fall backwards on the ground and lie there full length on your back until somebody wakes you up. Imagine those were his instructions. Why? We'll see. Then he will find the ship made, all ready to fly. So he would have cut down one big tree and he would have made the sign of the sacred cross and he would have fallen backwards onto the ground and he would have slept and slept and slept until when he woke, what did he see? A flying ship. Oh yes. So sit you down in it and fly off whither you want to go. But be sure on the way to give a lift to everyone you meet. So that was one instruction that he gave him that would have been crucial and that would have been pivotal and essential and needed for him to meet his wonderful destiny. So the fool of the world thanked the ancient old man, said goodbye to him, and went off to the forest. He walked up to a tree, the first big tree he saw, made the sign of the cross 3 times before it, swung his hatchet round his head, struck a mighty blow on the trunk of the tree, instantly fell backwards, flat on the ground, closed his eyes, and went to sleep. Yes, a little time went by, and it seemed to the fool as he slept that somebody was jogging his elbow, somebody had shaken him now, right? He woke up and opened his eyes. His hatchet, worn out, lay beside him. The big tree was gone, and in its place there stood what? A little, oh yes, a little ship ready and finished. The fool did not stop to think. He jumped into the ship, seized the tiller, and sat down. What would have been the tiller? It must have been the steering, right? Right, and was steering the ship or whatever it was. Instantly, the ship leapt up into the air and sailed over the tops of the trees. The little ship answered the tiller as readily. So what he was using to control the ship was doing just what he said. So it was answering the tiller as readily as if she was sailing in water. And the fool steered for the high road and sailed along above it, for he was afraid of losing his way if he tried to steer a course across the open country. So he went by the road that was cut out and that was beaten, so that he would not have been lost. He flew on and looked down and saw a man lying in the road below him with his ear on the damp ground. "Good day to you, uncle," cried the fool. "Good day to you, sky fellow," cried the man. "What are you doing down there?" says the fool. "I am listening to all that is being done in the world. Take your place in the ship with me." The man was willing enough and sat down in the ship with the fool, and they flew on together singing songs. So remember what the instruction was that he got? To give anyone he saw a ride in the ship, right? So this was the first man. The man was willing enough and he sat down in the ship with the fool, and as I said, they flew on together singing songs. They flew on and looked down, and there was a man on one leg with the other tied up to his head. So you can imagine his other leg was tied up to his head, so he was hopping on one foot. "Yes, good day, uncle," says the fool, bringing the ship to the ground. "Why are you hopping along on one foot? If I were to untie the other, I should move too fast. I should be stepping across the world. I should be stepping across the world in a single stride." So you can imagine if he untied one foot, he would go right across the world just in one step. "If I were to untie the other, yes, I should move too fast." "Sit down with us," says the fool. The man sat down with them in the ship, and they flew on together singing songs. They flew on and looked down, and there was a man with a gun, and he was taking aim. But what he was aiming at, they could not see. "Good health to you, uncle," says the fool. "But what are you shooting at? There isn't a bird to be seen." What? Says the man. If there were a bird that you could see, I should not shoot at it. A bird or a beast 1,000 versts away. That's the sort of mark for me. So he could shoot at things at long distances, right? Take your seat with us, says the fool. The man sat down with them in the ship, and they flew on together. Louder and louder rose their songs. They flew on and looked down, and there was a man carrying a sack of full of bread on his back. Good health to you, uncle, says the fool, sailing down. And where are you off to? I am going to get bread for my dinner, the man said, but you've got a full sack on your back. That, that little scrap? Why, that's not enough for a single mouthful. Take your seat with us, says the fool. So this man, he could eat a whole lot, don't it? Yes. So the fool said, take your seat with us. The eater sat down with them in the ship, and they flew on together, singing louder than ever, louder than ever. They flew on and looked down, and there was a man walking round and round a lake. What is a lake? Yes, a body of water. Good health to you, uncle, says the fool. What are you looking for? I want a drink and I can't find any water. Then, but there's a whole lake in front of your eyes, the fool said. Why can't you take a drink from that? That little drop, says the man. Why? There's not enough water there to wet the back of my throat if I were to drink it in one gulp. Take your seat with us, says the fool. So you see, all these people were going to be essential to the fool's destiny and his triumphing and his victory. The drinker sat down with them, and again they flew on singing in chorus. They flew on and looked down, and there was a man walking towards the forest with a faggot of wood on his shoulders. So what is a faggot of wood? A bundle of wood, right? Good day to you. Is it a bundle or is it one? I would imagine that it's either a bundle or one piece of wood. Good day to you, uncle, says the fool. Why are you taking wood to the forest? This isn't simple wood, says the man. What is it then, says the fool? If it is scattered about, a whole army of soldiers leaps up out of the ground. There's a place for you with us, says the fool. The man sat down with them, and the ship rose up into the air, and they flew on, carrying its singing crew. They flew on and looked down, and there was a man carrying a sack of straw, another friend. Good health to you, uncle, says the fool. And where are you taking your straw? To the village. Why are they short of straw in your village? Asked the fool. No, but this is such straw that if you scatter it abroad in the very hottest of the summer, instantly the weather turns cold, cold, and there is snow and frost. There's a place for you here too, says the fool. Very kind of you, says the man, and steps in and sits down. And away they all sailed together, singing like to burst their lungs. What does it mean? They were singing very loudly. They did not meet anyone else, and presently came up flying to the palace of the Tsar. Oh yes, they flew down and cast anchor in the courtyard. Just then, the Tsar was eating his dinner. He heard their loud singing and looked out of the window. The Tsar was who again? The king looked out of the window and saw the ship come sailing down into his courtyard. He sent his servant out to ask who was the great prince who had brought him the flying ship and had come sailing down with such a merry noise of singing. The servant came up to the ship and saw the fool of the world and his companions sitting there and cracking jokes. He saw they were all mujiks, simple peasants. Well, you know, there's a new word for you to learn. Mujiks. It is spelled Moujiks. simple peasants. It simply means simple country folk, peasants, poverty-stricken beggars. He saw that they were only peasants sitting in the ship. So he did not stop to ask questions, but came back quietly and told the Tsar that there were no gentlemen in the ship at all, but only a lot of dirty peasants. Now the Tsar was not at all pleased with the idea of giving his only daughter in marriage to a simple peasant, and he began to think how he could get out of this bargain. So even though he sent out the order that anybody who could bring him a flying ship would marry his daughter, because he saw that his men were what? Poor, poor peasants. He didn't want to give his daughter in marriage to the simple, poor old fool of the world. So he said no. As he began to think how he could get out of this bargain, he said, I set them such tasks that they will not be able to perform, and they'll be glad to get off with their lives, and I shall get the ship for nothing. So you see how the Tsar was deceitful? You see how he was trickified? You see how the Tsar was dishonest? What was he going to do? He was going to tell them to do things that were impossible. And if they didn't do it, or if they failed that one, what would happen? He was not going to marry his daughter after all. So he told his servant to go to the fool and tell him that before the Tsar had finished his dinner, the fool was to bring him some of the magical water of life. Now, while the Tsar was giving his order to the servant, the listener, the first of the fool's companions, was listening. So you can imagine now this man who had his ear down to the ground, he was listening and heard the words of the Tsar and repeated them to the fool. So the fool was like one step ahead of him. What am I going to do now, says the fool, stopping short, yes, on his jokes. In a year, in a whole century, I never could find that magical water. And he wants it before he has finished his dinner. Hear the man now. Don't you worry about that, says the swift goer, the man who could run fast. I'll deal with that for you. The servant came and announced the Tsar's command. Tell him he shall have it, says the fool. His companion, the swift goer, untied his foot from beside his head, put it to the ground, and wriggled it a little to get the stiffness out of it, ran off, and was out of sight almost before he had stepped from the ship. Quicker than I can tell you in words, he had come to the water of life and put some of it in a bottle. I shall have plenty of time to get back, thinks he, and down sits he under a windmill and goes off to sleep. Why I think he went off to sleep? He was a little bit tired, yes, and he knew that he was able to get back in a good time. So him take a little nap, man. Now the royal dinner was coming to an end, and there wasn't a sign of him. There were no songs and no jokes in the flying ship. Everybody was watching for the swift goer and thinking he would not be in time. The listener jumped out and laid his right ear to the damp ground, listened a moment and said, what a fellow! He has gone to sleep under the windmill. I can hear him snoring. And there is a fly buzzing with its wings perched on the windmill close above his head. This is my affair, says the far shooter. And he picked up his gun. So all the men that he invited onto the ship, they were going to do something that would help him along. So you see, everybody's jumping into action now, don't? Everybody was helping him, the fool of the world. This is my affair, says the far shooter. And as I said, he picked up his gun from between his knees, aimed at the fly on the windmill, and walked the swift goer with a thud of the bullet on the wood of the mill close by his head. The swift goer leapt up and ran, and in less than a second had brought the magic water of life and given it to the fool. The fool gave it to the servant, who took it to the Tsar. The Tsar had not yet left the table, so that his command had been fulfilled as exactly as ever could be. So the Tsar was hoping that all these things would have been impossible to them, but all the men with these special abilities were able to help him. What fellows these peasants are, thought the Tsar. There is nothing for it but to set them another task. So the Tsar said to his servant, go to the captain of the flying ship and give him this message. If you are such a cunning fellow, you must have a good appetite. What is an appetite? What do we call an appetite? Where the, well, your appetite means your ability to crave and desire food. So somebody would say you have a big appetite, meaning that you eat a lot, right? Yes. So if you are such a cunning fellow, you must have a good appetite. Let you and your companions now eat at a single meal 12 oxen. What are oxen? You know what are oxen? Animals like cows, right? That you can get meat from, just like how you get your beef from the cows, right? Right? So let you and your companions eat at a single meal 12 oxen. You can imagine now he's going to ask them. You can imagine now he's going to ask them to eat how many oxen? How many oxen? What fellows these peasants are. There's nothing for it but to set them another task. So they roasted the oxen and made as much bread as can be baked in 40 ovens. You can imagine the listener heard the message beforehand. You remember that man who had his ear to the ground, who could hear things, all that was going on in the world? The listener heard the message and told the fool what was coming. He told him beforehand. The fool was terrified, scared, and said, I can't get through even a single loaf at eating at a sitting. Don't worry about that, said the eater. It won't be more than a mouthful for me, and I shall be glad to have a little snack in place of my dinner. So the eater now was able to eat so much, he was going to take care of that impossible task. The servant came and announced the Tsar's command. Good, says the fool. Fool confident now, Send the food along and we'll know what to do with it. So they brought 12 oxen roasted whole and as much bread as could be baked in how many ovens? 40 ovens. And the companions had scarcely sat down to the meal before the eater had finished the lot. Why, said the eater, what a little. They might have given us a decent meal while they were about it. The Tsar told his servant to tell the fool that he and his companions were to drink 40 barrels of wine with 40 buckets full in every barrel. So 4 fours are 16. So you can imagine that would have been what, 1,600 or so? 40 times 40, right? 1,600 bucketfuls, right? So, something like that in every barrel. My master so good. The listener told the fool what message was coming. Why, says the fool, I never in my life drank more than one bucket at a time. Don't worry, says the drinker. You remember this man who could drink up the whole lake of water and never feel thirsty and never feel quenched? All right. You forget I am thirsty. It'll be nothing of a drink for me, he said. They brought the 40 barrels of wine and tapped them, and the drinker tossed them down one after another. Gulp, gulp, one gulp for each barrel. Little enough, says he. Why, I am thirsty still. Very good, says the Tsar to his servant, when he heard that they had eaten all the food and drunk all the wine. Tell the fellow to get ready for the wedding and let him go and bathe himself in the bathhouse. But let the bathhouse be made so hot that the man will stifle and frizzle as soon as he sets foot inside. It is an iron bathhouse. Let it be made red hot. The listener heard all this and told the fool, who stopped short with his mouth open in the middle of a joke. Don't you worry, says the moujik with the straw. Remember what the moujik with the straw was going to do? All right, with the straw, what he said he could do with the straw. Well, they made the bathhouse red hot and called the fool. And the fool went along to the bathhouse to wash himself, and with him went the moujik with the straw. They shut them both into the bathhouse and thought that that was the end of them. But the moujik scattered the straw before them as they went in, and it became so cold in there that the fool of the world had scarcely time to wash himself before the water in the cauldrons froze to solid ice. They lay down on the very stove itself and spent the night there shivering. So the bathhouse, which was very hot, which was this room that you go into to steam yourself and to bathe and whatever, became very cold. In the morning, the servants opened the bathhouse, and there were the fool of the world and the music, alive and well, lying on the stove, and what? Singing songs, right? Singing songs. They told the Tsar, and the Tsar raged with anger, because he can't go around the fool. He's saying, can't go around the fool like we say in Jamaica. There is no getting rid of this fellow, says he. But go and tell him that I send him this message. If you are to marry my daughter, you must show that you are able to defend her. Let me see that you have at least a regiment of soldiers. And we're coming down to the end now. Thinks he to himself, how can a simple peasant raise a troop? That is what he wanted. He wanted to fight with the peasant now. But remember the other man who had the faggots of wood on his back? He will find it hard enough to raise a single soldier. So where was he going to get this army from? We're going to hear. The listener listened again and told the fool of the world. And the fool began to lament. This time, says he, I am done. Indeed, you, my brothers, have saved me from misfortune more than once. But this time, alas, there is nothing to be done. Oh, what a fellow you are, says the peasant with the faggot of wood. I suppose you have forgotten about me. Remember that I am the man for this little affair, and don't you worry about it at all. The Tsar's servant came along and gave his message. Very good, says the fool. But tell the Tsar that if after this he puts me off again, I make war on his country and take the princess by force. And then, as the servant went back with the message, the whole crew on the flying ship set to their singing again, la 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 la, and sang and laughed and made jokes as if they had not a care in the world. During the night while the others slept, the peasant with the faggot of wood went higher, hither and thither, scattering his sticks. Instantly where they fell, what happened? There appeared a gigantic army, man. They turned into soldiers. Yes, nobody could count the number of soldiers in it. Cavalry, foot soldiers, yes, and guns, and all the guns new and bright. And the men in the finest uniforms that ever were seen, coming down Miss Black. In the morning, as the Tsar woke and looked from the windows of the palace, he found himself surrounded by what? Soldiers, troops upon troops of soldiers. Now that is what we call a group of soldiers. We call a group of soldiers what? A troop. Or we call groups of soldiers troops, right? Yes, and generals in cocked hats, bowing in the courtyard and taking orders from the fool of the world who sat there joking with his companions in the flying ship. Now it was the Tsar's turn to be afraid. As quickly as he could, he sent his servants to the fool with presents of what? Rich jewels and fine clothes, invited him to come to the palace and begged him, you imagine? Begged him to marry the princess. The fool of the world put on the fine clothes and stood there as handsome a young man as a princess could wish for a husband. So finally, can you imagine, students? Can you imagine? Finally, he had the princess's hand in marriage. And so he presented himself before the Tsar, fell in love with the princess, and she with him married her the same day, received with her a rich dowry. Now what do we call a dowry? Does anybody know what is a dowry? Well, a dowry can be jewelry, but it's mainly compensation or payment, compensation or payment someone gives so that they could have somebody's hand in marriage. So guess what? He paid him a rich dowry and became the fool of the world, became so clever that all the court repeated everything he said. The Tsar and the Tsaritsa. Who is the Tsaritsa now? Who is the Tsaritsa? Who is the Tsaritsa? We have the Tsar. Can anybody guess who is the Tsaritsa? If we have the Tsar and he's a king, can anybody guess who is the Tsaritsa? The queen, the Tsar's wife. And they liked him very much after all. And as for the princess, she loved him to distraction. So she got to love him very much. And that is the end of our story. Ah. Did you enjoy our story, children? All right, thank God. I am glad you did, and thank God we are through it now. So we ask, is there any? Can I ask Miss Black to ask him a few questions? So if he has registered, he can continue filming, but just ask them for me, please. I'm kind of the wind is kind of knocked out of me. Yes.
How many ovens? How many barrels? Oh, you're trying to remember the total because it's Harris one working it out. So it's 40 times 40. How many men did he pick up in the ship? How many men did he pick up in the ship? All right. Tell me some of the persons, some of the men who he took up in the ship. The listener.
Yes.
Drinker. Dasher.
The runner. The runner. Yes.
Okay, same one. And shooter. Smart guy. What did smart guy do? Alright, we get back to go Omari. Dragon. Strong guy.
The straw guy who was able to make the snow. The one who was able to, the one with the straw. This one with the wood is different. That one with the wood actually is the one who causes what to come from the wood. The soldiers, yes. And the one with the straw is able to make cold and frost. Yes. Yes.
I see that some persons were listening. Go ahead. That's the drinker.
Yes.
One with the wood. Alright, very good. Give yourselves a clap. Give me yours. Last one. Alright, give yourselves a big clap.
Right.
Alright, very good. Stop. So even though some persons took a little nap, they were still able to answer. How many sons did the couple have? 3. Who were clever? Give me another word for clever. Right, and one was what? Hold on. They thought he was foolish, but was he foolish? No! Who got to marry the king's daughter? The one that they thought was dumb. Alright, very good. Intelligent. Alright, very good. Alright, sir, yes.
So I continue as I read one poem for you.
Alright, so sir is gonna read one poem now.
Yes. And as yes, and so after having finished that story, did you enjoy the Fool of the World and the Flying Ship? You enjoyed that story, right? Yes, man. Great to know. And I saw that you were listening and you were attentive all through, or almost all through. Now we're reading our final reading for today, Read Across Jamaica Day. And what do you think it is going to be about? It's going to be a poem, but what do you think this poem is going to be about? No. Yes, it's going to be about reading, and it's entitled Reading Maketh a Man, that I wrote some time ago. Here we go. Here we go. Reading maketh a man. All right, listen now. What is that? Let me look. Ah, I see. It's a book. I wonder what it has in store. Oh, my friend, tell me more. Do you know how much I need a book like this? It's fun to read. It's not the same just to be told. Reading's like discovering gold. It makes you learn of many things. What a joy reading brings. It takes you on adventures far as if you're riding in a car. It stretches your imagination and fills your heart with inspiration when you read of great men who did so many things back then. It makes you understand the way that things work. What can I say? If you read your books, my friend, your knowledge of things never ends. In magazines, journals, and the newspapers, you can read of brave men's capers. In fact, I tell you, all around can things be read and words be found. Look at signs. They're all about. Words are powerful. There's no doubt. And my little friends today, this is what I have to say. Take a book by the hand. Did you hear? Reading maketh a man. Let's repeat that. Did you hear? Reading maketh a man. Again. Did you hear? Reading maketh a man. Thank you. So children, what are some of the things that reading can do for you?
Make you a man.
It just helps to make you a man. Yes. New words, you can learn new words.
It can make you bright. So sometimes when you're in the test and you see a word that you see before you know it.
Yes, it can make you bright. Your vocabulary, we call it, can be widened by reading. What else? What else does reading do for us? It can make you smart. What does reading do for us? You can learn new stories. With new words again, yes. Yes, who else? Learn new things, yes. Yes, help you to read and write better. And you? It gives you new imaginary friends, yes. What else does reading do for you? Speak up, man. New words, yes. All right. So I want to thank you today, dear students, for having listened attentively to what I had to say, yes. It makes you wiser, yes. Having listened to what I say, what I had to say, and I implore you to keep on reading, but make sure that you read good, uplifting, positive, edifying, educative material that will ennoble your mind and make you better men and women of tomorrow and good boys and girls. And one important book that you should read, that you must read for guidance, for wisdom, for instruction, what is that? And to show you the way to salvation, that is the Bible, the scriptures. Yes. And also you must read your newspapers. Where else can you read, get things to read? Yes, signs that you see on the road. Yes, the charts in your classroom and journals as well as magazines. Yes, as magazines and books. All right. So I want to thank you again, students. Thank you, Ms. Black, for having had me. And God bless you all and have a great rest of Read Across Jamaica Day. That's it for me.